So welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Agarest Senki Mariage for the PSP. It's been a while since I've done this, actually. I don't know what's been holding me back. I've just been doing too much, but nothing too out of the ordinary. It's just that it's going to be faster that I translate this stuff now, even though it's already translated, ready to go. But the patch is surprisingly coming along well. But I figured, you know, I don't know when that's going to be done, so I got to get this done. I just got to make a video about this, explaining all this. So, last time we left off, we pretty much were introduced to the game, and we found out, like, you know, what's going on. But now I'm just going to kind of explain to you, like, what does what, like, through the menus. So, again, this will be probably very important for you. So, in here we have, I mean, if you actually look really closely, it's like, take a look where my arrow's at. It says right here, like, here's the Japanese on the side, but if you look really closely, it's a status, item, skill, role, quest, gallery, option, save, and load. Now, the game actually is kind enough, and then you might see, like, main menu. Here's another really funny thing about Japanese. I think other Asian languages do the same thing, but from what I've seen, because I just started learning Chinese a little bit, but I'm going to make videos about that too, but I just find it really interesting, though, that, you know, this game was never released outside of Japan, and this is in the game itself that it translates to, like, main menu, and then that's menu in Japanese, I can tell you that for a fact. And then all these words, like, down here, this is what they translate to in Japanese. Like, so for example, status, you can view your status of all the characters, their current stats, makes sense, items, this would be event items, this would be armor, essentially. This is material. This is all the material in the game, pretty much, because I played this game so many damn times. And this is all the items that, well, pretty much that I was able to find. And yeah, we'll get into what this stuff does later. But anyways, material and the skill. Again, every character. All right, so this is attacker. This is defender. This is supporter. This is conductor. These are the sacred treasures. And these are the chain attacks. Okay, so now everybody's got their own stats for attacker, defender, supporter, which is a healer in this case, white magic, and then conductors like black magic and lane traps. And all these characters, again, Rain, Kunka, Felsia, and Panina. What's really interesting, though, is that their skills can only, depending on what role they have. So, like, I always go by default. Rain is better off as an attacker, Kunka is better off as a defender, and Felsia is better as a healer. Panina is really good with conducting spells. But the thing is, though, and I mean, you have to level up. I mean, here, I'll show this really quick. Like, every character, you see right here where it says, like, Rain's level's level 2, but then down here it's like, it's got, like, level 2 for attacker, defender, supporter, conductor. And notice how they have their own individual levels. And these are all just a buttload of experiences that you don't really see. This is, okay, so this is where the game kind of gets a little confusing, and I'm going to do the best I can to explain this. Okay, so all this is what, okay, again, if you've ever played Agarest, I don't know about the other Agarest games, I haven't touched them yet. Anything I've been doing Fatal Frame Let's Plays, and anybody who's watched my channel knows that. Fatal Frame is a survival horror game, if you don't know. So I'm done with Fatal Frame 1, so I'm just now taking a break from that, because we're going to get into 2 very shortly, but I'm going to throw another episode of this out there before I have to go outside and cut wood today. So I got like a good hour and a half to record this before I have to do this. But anyways, but you'll see all these upgrades. Like, okay, so then we'll go over to other characters, and, you know, you'll notice how, like, they have their own tree growth. Now, what does this remind you of? Has anybody played the Agarest series that was made by Gus Games? Essentially, these games are like Mana Kamina, for example, for the PS2 and the PSP remix. You know, this is all. You only have the first 40, at least not until you get to Generation 2, and then, like, you know, all your stats will carry over from their ancestors. These are non-existent until the Gen 2. These are just stat bonuses for the hero. And again, Kunka. So you could say their stats are pretty damn high. They also have their own stat. I'm trying to think. This just, if you press select right here, this kind of just goes to their to their portrait styles, and this just goes back to their original. And then you can kind of like use this to like zoom in on them and just kind of like see their character models, which is pretty cool. Sword that Rain has. Felsia's got a staff. Kunka's got like a giant katana. Rain's got a sword, and Panina's got a scythe. So you can change these right here. These are just very useful. And again, you're going to need some of these swords later on for like a certain dungeon later on, but you don't get that until a New Game Plus, but it's on the world map, so I'll explain when we can go to it and kind of skipping it. But, alright, so that covers that, that covers that. Okay, so, and then you want a cheap armor. Look at this one. This one is, you're immune to all stat effects. All stat effects. I don't have every single armor made, but I got the material. I put a save on GameFAQs if you're interested. It kind of just... I mean, I didn't really try to get everything yet, but I just wanted to put a save file so people could at least say, okay, hey, you know, we got a save file this entire game with everything in it. So yeah, okay, so now that we got that, so I'm just going to use like the best items in the game. Essentially what this is, again, if you've never played Agarest, or at least this game anyways that I'm familiar with, the, you know, where was it at again? Right here? No, it was here. All this, you just got to gather all the material. These boost your stats, by the way. So in other words, you know, you just go to different areas, and you can only get so many items in an area. I mean, like you can get as many as you want as long as you fight the correct enemies. You know, like a typical dungeon, you can max out at level 99. But the problem is, though, you can only get so many items in one area before you got to move to the next area. And the way the game works with level grinding is that you can only get, you know, once you kill the enemy, and depending on your level and the enemy's level, you'll start getting less and less until you eventually get to their level, and it doesn't really give you any more. So it's kind of, again, this game's not really too bad to understand, but it does get really difficult later on. But anyways, so that pretty much explains the main core of how that works. But the question, though, is now the next question some people have asked me was, what do roles do? Well, all right, that's a good question. So roles are, I made a video talking about the tutorial at the beginning, but I kind of translated it in my own words, and I have to go back and like I'm retranslating it like right now because I want to. I'm double checking my work essentially because again, you know, I don't know Japanese 100%, but I took. I went back, like at the time when I recorded this video, I didn't have a fast computer, or rather, a long time ago I didn't. So when I uploaded my first Agarest videos, like in Japanese, you might notice how the quality was a little bit different. What it did was, I mean, I'm recording at 480p now, like screen resolution, and then taking the game and then like turning it into a higher definition of the game. But the problem is, though, I've noticed that when I was playing this game, I noticed that when I was playing, I used to record it at 240p, and then I tried to take that and then just stretch it out, but then obviously the quality isn't as good as if you played it at original. So I've noticed that when I was translating the game that there was some kanji that I was actually misinterpreting by some default. So I had to go back and essentially recheck what I did wrong. And I'm glad somebody pointed it out because I didn't really catch some of the mistakes until after I saw it. So it's better off now. But I actually taught myself a little bit more Japanese since then, so I know a lot more than I do now. Not saying I didn't already know this back then, but this is just this is just to give you an idea. But again, when you play this game, I wouldn't spend too much time. Like, I mean, you can do this if you want to play the game long enough, but you can't carry over your levels as well as your job levels. Kind of like Final Fantasy, sort of. But again, if you are familiar with, again, I would recommend just keeping Rain as an attacker, Kunka as a defender, Felsia as a supporter, and Panina as a conductor. Because the thing is, their skills, I mean, you know, you'll understand it. You can pass this off anyway. Every character can be like their own individual class and whatnot, but you're gonna get better results with like just this main setup. And I mean, we'll explain why as we go. You know, I mean, again, I'll do more than one playthrough of this game, and I plan on doing that. And I'll show you like what skills and spells that they get only at certain levels, but they can only use those spells if they actually have. If their characters are already maxed out at that level in there, and they have like their in their job levels that high, or role levels that high, sorry, and the game has it selected under that. So again, like Rain can only use skills that are under attacker, and he can't use anything else like under like all his other stat effects that he'll grow from, like, so like for example, let's say like he changed his role with like everybody else's and leveled them all the way up to level 99. Now as far as I'm aware, you don't get those additional bonuses even though you already have them unlocked for that role. You can only do it under the one you have previously selected, because that would make him even more powerful than he really is. And even though you can carry over your stats, I mean, you can't carry over your levels. Like, you'll get even higher stats like when you level up, and you'll also get like when your levels of your role goes up, you'll get even higher stats. But the levels will reset to 1 as well as the job on level 1, and the attacks don't carry over until you unlock them again. But there's a way of getting around this. Once you play the game more than once, you'll get this bonus dungeon, and you'll go to the bonus dungeon and get more stuff, which is pretty cool. But the idea is that, and you can hit level 99 very easily, which is pretty cool. But my point is, though, and that's overkill, but my point is, though, if you notice how, you know, his stats are already high enough, this is all because, you know, I got all this maxed out. And the same thing with every other character. So that explains that. So that should give you an idea how that all works. Hopefully there's some stuff that I'm probably leaving out. But again, we'll get to it. We will. So, did I cover all that? Yeah, that should do it. That should do it. Okay, I'll just explain this. Resistant, this just means like when you get hit by an elemental attack, if it's maxed out like this, you'll absorb the damage. So it'll heal you instead. And there's a few exceptions where some enemies are actually like that, so you've got to check that, make sure. So Kunkka, all of them are good. All right, that's good. So we got skills. Okay, that's all good. Roll. Alright, and then you go with quest. This is just side quests that you can do. Gallery. Okay, these are all the enemies that are dead. There's 178 of them. Just to give you a heads up. These are all the illustrations, and these are all the endings. Now I won't spoil this yet, what this all means, but this is just to kind of give you an idea. You can get 2 endings per ending, and for the characters that do get their ending, there's a normal and a true ending. But if you get the true ending, you only get the true ending version, and you have to go back and get the normal ending. And I'll explain how to get the true ending in this game, because anybody who's a Agarest fan knows that there's always a true ending, and they're all really hidden very well. These are just the standard options. Turn this difficulty down, because I'm not. This just saves the game, and then just loads it, just like that. Okay. So that should explain how this whole thing works. Now on the start menu, you'll notice how there's 2 things right up here. This pauses the game manually, but you can also open it up with the triangle button. You can also press select. I'm surprised this isn't on here. I guess this is a secret or something. But if you press select, you can change characters in the party, and they can run around like this. And this means like to run around. You can move the map. You hold the button down like this, you can see the land of Agarest. It's actually a lot bigger than we think it is. And there's some areas we're not really going to go to yet. Like this second half over here, that is for Gen 2. And if you actually hold down X and run, you'll be surprised that you can run faster. But essentially, this is just to give you an idea how this works. Every time you go into an enemy boss, you know, you'll run into enemies. And the enemies that you fight on the map are actually the next, are like usually the characters in the next area. Okay, so like for example, this would be a cat and this would be a butterfly. Okay, so I just did 3,601 damage. Kunkka's getting, again, some of these skills that I have, this is not skills that you would immediately start off with, but let alone attack power. But this is just to kind of walk you through it though. Okay, so like if you press triangle, and to give you an understanding how this works, you'll see the enemy stats. The only thing you're not seeing here, however, is their current attacks, as well as their AI scripts and all that. And this is some really useful information that I think Kunkka has a skill where she can read that, or no, it's Panina that scans them. You can kind of get an understanding what it is before you, like while you're fighting them, and then we just leveled up. Now this is okay. I'm skipping some of the stuff, but all this is just upgrades for the class, and then they give you how much money you got and what items they dropped. Now this is probably the one screen you're going to go to the most, the enemy monster gallery. This tells you right here, like every time you, again, I got all the items already unlocked except for a few, and these are different. There's certain attacks you got to use with certain people in order to get like certain attacks, but you don't really need them. But for completion's sake, I'll show you how to do it, what I forgot to do. But anyways, this is like take for example the first monster. You push L and R to cycle through it again, or you can just go out with X and then just select the monster. You know, this will kind of give you a description like what they are. This will tell you like where you fought them at, what their name is, the items that they drop, location, what they are. Yeah, it gives you like an advanced understanding. This tells you like this down here will tell you like what you have highlighted up here, like the items. And then if you push the, is it select? There's another button I forgot about. Oh yeah, you push triangle and it will show you what their attack is, and then they get like a hidden ability or something like that, like for stats. So they got their base stats, which they don't tell you about, but they'll tell you like certain other stuff, like how much experience they give off, what level they're on, how much gold they drop, and what location you fight them at. This is really useful. This tells you like what attacks they have and you know what they could possibly do. And in this case, we have fought the one. Say again, basic attack, and he's weak against. Okay, so if it's got a negative sign, that means it's weak against it. This means it's resistant, strong against it. Makes sense. So that's just to kind of give you an idea how that works. You'll probably be opening and closing that menu up. So again, keep fighting the enemies, max out the items that you get, and again, all the text, like all the stuff you're hearing right now, the characters say, I'm still trying to find some of the stuff that they translated, they say. Okay, now as for fighting enemies on the world map, this is going to be really easy to explain, but you see this little line I'm running on, back and forth? Well, as soon as I go in here, you notice how it turns yellow? You just got to run from left to right one time, and the screen will just, like, you don't fight them in that area anymore. So if you're running on a yellow line, essentially it means there's no random encounters. But you'll fight those same enemies in this level that we're going to be. And again, this game's got a beautiful soundtrack, like this next area. I'm going to have you listen to the music a little bit before we move on, and I won't say anything. But it's essentially how it works. So Rain's like, huh? So Falsia's, again, certain parts of the game don't have full voice acting, mind you. They're also talking about how there's like a forest that we've gone into and how the scenery is very beautiful. Kunkka's like, yeah! You know, she's mentioning how, you know, because she's a cat, she's going to probably find some stuff in here she probably likes. And Rain's just saying that he's like, everybody shouldn't get too excited. Panina is essentially saying that, you know, everybody should just be happy. No reason to destroy everybody's confidence. And we should get going. And Rain's like, yes, I agree. We should check it out while we can. Belcia starts mentioning that maybe Rain might have forgot about something. Kunkka sort of agrees, but suggests a couple things. Panina agrees. And then they depart. Okay, so this is the forest. Right here, this is a kanji for the word forest. And I forget what this translates to. This means of. So forest of, you know. Japanese is interesting. Like while you're listening to the song.
So yeah, that song is going to come back for us later on. But anyways, so that's a beautiful song, it really is. But anyways, what we have here though is, so you'll notice how some things haven't really changed since we've been here. So this is the forest. Like, okay, like I was saying though, Japanese, it's like, you know, like in English, it's like subject, objective, verb. So like, you know, we would say the forest is here, or we would say, you know, chances are in English we would probably say the name of the forest. Or, but in English, in Japanese, it's kind of similar, sort of, I think, I want to say. You know, because some stuff isn't, but some stuff really isn't too much different. So like in this case, you know, you got the name of the forest. the name of the forest. I had to look up what this translates to, but this is what we call a particle in Japanese. So no usually means the word of. So of forest. So it's this name stating like what the name of this forest is of the forest. And of course Japanese has like some words that are taken out, but you can just substitute them in, rewrite them differently. And there's more than one way to write stuff, so thankfully, you know, it's just accuracy is all it is. So when you translate stuff, it's really just talking about like, okay, this is how it works. So you just gotta essentially know what it translates to and you'll be fine. Okay, so in this area you'll notice how like no matter how many when you go into a dungeon, the lines are always orange, so you'll always run into random encounters at a certain point. But depending on how high your levels are, you can actually run a farther distance before you run into another random encounter. And I will explain that much later. Okay, so these are, again, if you don't have these spells, then, you know, it's not really too bad. Okay, I want to explain something here. This is going to come in handy later on. Okay, so your stats obviously aren't going to be what I have, though, but you notice how we got three things here. We got HP, MP, and GP. Now, you might notice GP, you probably never saw that one before. HP is pretty self-explanatory. It's how much health your character has. MP is obviously for skills in this game. So, for, let's say, when they use their skills for right here, and when they use their skills for MP right here. Now, when you do, okay, and then we have GP, which is Sacred Treasures. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this game is, like, every time you use these, there's really no way to definitively get them back unless you go back to the nearest town, rest there, or you can use these hearts that you can get, and they give you, technically, more so that. And what's really interesting, though, is this game does have a lot of heavily romantic scenes in it. Doesn't show anything, but it just in case you didn't know that, these games, because this game deals heavily on you know, the main hero falls in love with someone and they have a child and it goes into Gen 2. But like, depending on how many times they made out, because technically they do have scenes like that, and I'll explain that later. I don't know, like, their armor disappears. It's something perverted, yes, but it's just the way the game works. But that's only after, like, later on, you know, as their character animations, like, depending on how many times they had technically sex, but they don't show it in this game. But we'll get to that later on. But the GP essentially means, like, it'll go up, like, by 25 in Gen 1. I think they can, there's like 3 or 4 scenes. I think it's 3 scenes for, I know there's 4. There's 4 scenes that you can get with every character. And then after that, then it goes up to 3. Like, it starts out as 100, and then it goes, you can get it up to 200, and it resets every, so technically speaking, even though it's at 300 now, that also doesn't carry over. So I get those every time I see those scenes, and you can get up to 400 in this first case. So not really too bad, but that's how that works. Okay, so as for chain attacks, you see how it highlights everybody? Well, this has to be, they have to be in order. So, like, for example, if your character's super fast, you can rank up, this will raise their heart levels that will trigger these scenes, so the relationship levels, and this essentially just means bonding attacks. So as soon as I use this attack on one enemy, like, we'll do this. So for example, so everybody's got their own attack animation when they do that, depending on who uses it, but then it also, you'll notice how it immediately skips everybody else. But I can still use this. And then after you win a battle, it shows the character doing like a pose, which is pretty cool. And you'll notice how the hearts just went up. Now, the hearts are right here. They grow slowly. Or you can use these items. These hearts right here. Every character has their own. And there's even characters in here you probably, I know you can't read it in Japanese, but essentially what it does is it restores the GP. But I'm not going to use them right now because I'm like kind of hoarding them on a save file so I can max them out at level 99. But essentially the easiest way to max these out, there's scenes you can see that you can get the character illustrations, like for example, like this for example. Every character's got their own. So you got ones that are from Gen 1. There's even characters you'll notice you don't see in here. These are from like Gen 2. So I kind of like spoiled the ending a little bit, but hey, what are you gonna do, right? Kind of have to if you're playing this game, because you probably never played this game, and most people haven't played this game because it was never localized. I tell you, it's not because it's weird or anything. You know, I mean, that's just what it is. You know, this is the content that's in the game. So like all these items, these are health items, and they'll tell you what they do. Believe me, we'll get into what they do, but like when we pick them up and such. But right now we're just in a forest, so. The game is kind of, I mean, again, if you've ever played any of the other Agarest games, there have been people that have complained that the other Agarest games are just your average JRPG, but they're just really tedious and really, so some people say that they never really got into these games because they're just really long, and they are long games. I mean, when I first played this game, it took me 466 hours in real time to beat it. It's pretty crazy, actually. I did a speed run on hard mode with New Game Plus and all that. It still took me 8.5 hours to finish it. Skipping the story, getting everything in the game. I mean, this game's pretty long, but it's worth it though, if you ask me. That's why I wanted to translate it for people, and that's why it's still taking me a while to do it. I'm doing it for almost a year now. Like, I mean, I got the script in English, I do, but I mean, I'm still not done with it yet, though. Like, I mean, I gotta put a patch, I gotta make videos, I gotta do a Let's Play of it, you know. It's a mess, it really is, but, you know, hey, that's what people like to watch on YouTube or other websites. So anyways, you'll notice how I'm still sorting through the menu a little bit. I'm trying to find something, I wanted to show you it. Oh, yeah. That's not it. So, roll. So, if you look at all this stuff down here, again, you'll notice how these stuff, it levels up. Jobs actually take a lot less, or roles in this case, take a lot less experience than leveling up in real time like your characters do. Which, surprisingly, there we go. So, yeah. So you just run on the little, you run on the angles and you just go to them. So you can just skip. Just really quickly. You'll notice how, and also I want to point this out, when you use a chain attack, you know, when it takes MP, it doesn't drain everybody else's MP that joins in the fray, and it automatically ends their turn and goes to the enemy's turn, so you don't always want to do that. But you'll notice how, like, you know, when you use these chain attacks, though, that it drains just the person that used it, so everybody else can join in on it as long as they have enough MP. Yeah. But the thing that really kind of, yeah, this song's awesome. But you'll notice, though, that if you were to use, like a Sacred Treasure, this would use both Kumka and Rain's special abilities, and it would drain their MP. Now, while Rain has, or GP, while he has 500, Kuka only has 300, so that's kind of a unnecessary. But the way I'm looking at it right now, you would have this, you would only have one available for each character. Even Rain gets his own special abilities, which is pretty cool, but we're just gonna do this. And I also got to mention this, but if you use a chain attack to gain other people's heart levels, you'll notice how if Rain's not in it, it doesn't count. And you can use it as many times as you want. And there's like a hidden value that only so many characters can get. So Rain's got to be in it. And that was a lot of damage. That was over 15,000. But yeah. And you'll also notice this. I forgot to mention this. The dungeon drop. There's some material that is only dropped by enemies, and then there's some that are only dropped like in a specific dungeon. So you'll know that you never got it yet because it hasn't dropped on this playthrough. Yeah. Even though I already have them in stock. But. And then we come over here, and we get ambushed by a couple of these guys. And you just skip it. It's not really going to do any damage because they already took too much damage, or they already did. They don't have high enough stats like mine does. Your stats are going to be a lot different than mine are at this point, but this should kind of give you an idea what happens when you play this game later on. Okay, so this is items have been found, or in the treasure chest, what were found in the. This is items right here. Contents of the treasure. Okay, so we got some health items. Now this is probably the strongest enemy in this area right now. This is a killer plant. I'm not sure if that's the actual name of it, but that's essentially what it looks like. So again, stats went up even further. Again, the whole purpose of this Let's Play is just to kind of tell you like what's going on, like to kind of give you an understanding how to make sense of this game. So I'm gonna tell you where everything's at, but I'm probably not gonna be able to tell you everything off the top of my head because there's a lot to take in with this game. And this is just one Agarest game. I have yet to touch the other three, and I do not know how long those other games are. Okay, so you'll notice how we can't go any further. And there's a reason why. We have to go back to town now. I think the idea is that there's like a hidden passage we gotta take or something, but we can't go to it. We gotta meet somebody. Skipping this. Skipping this. Okay. Heart levels keep going up. So, would you like to exit the level? Yes, I would. Go back to town. So Rain's like, well, it's good to be back. Or at least something like that, rather. Essentially, they're talking about, like, you know, the town's very peaceful and the whatnot. Felsia mentions that there's some things that they probably should do since they're in town again. Something, I don't know what she's saying. Something about, again, something kind of adding on to what Rain and Felsia were saying. Something about the relationship. Pandina kind of adds a little bit, adds a couple questions. She's like, you really think so? What does everybody else think? And, you know, Rain kind of sort of lied a little bit. He said that he believes that everybody else is... Like to give you an idea, he essentially, like the things that he just said, he kind of agrees that everybody should be happy about being back, but he's also saying that there's just some things that they're not really ready for as far as combat. And he still wonders why why we still got to do this under these circumstances. And then, so, Panina still thinks that they're talking about what they were talking about earlier, about, like, being happy and being in town. And so, Rain's like, well, okay, let's just go. So again, you're going to need, okay, so when you do this, you're not going to be able to, that just tells me I already have it. Again, when you see these, it'll tell you on the side, like, how much, what you need of what elements, and it'll be highlighted blue if it's ready to go. And then down here I'll tell you how much gold you need. Yeah, you need money in this game in order to buy these upgrades, by the way. Again, if I was playing a New Game Plus, then it would be a lot easier, but I will one day. I'll show you what those translate to. I'll have to. So yeah, now we go to shop. You can buy some items if you need them. Then we go to customize, and then we have, okay, now this is the request. Now this is the woman that we're going to be meeting. She'll be joining us very shortly too. And there's 16, you see here there's 16. There's 16 quests, and I forget her name. I think it's Kur. No, it's something else. But anyways, you take the request, and you have to. And now you'll see, like you'll need a key item, and this is the reward for completing it. So go to CAF. Now, if you go to CAF, this pretty much teaches you everything that's in this level. Like this will kind of give you an idea of like you talk to the people, they'll talk about some stuff. They say, "Oh yeah, the hero's in town, huh?" And you're the hero. And then Rain's like, "Oh well, you know." He's like, "Oh, don't." He's like, "Don't be so." They're just saying like, you know, don't give up. So I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what everything translates to. This one will tell you that, you know, kind of give you some backstory. I guess I forgot to read this earlier, but this essentially is just telling you that, you know, how to play the game. Kind of give you an understanding, some basic menu information. Again, I will translate this later on, but right now, though, I'm still sorting through it. But being somebody who's played this game multiple times, I can tell you that, yeah, it's not really that long and difficult to understand where everything's at. It's just that, you know, there is a lot to take in, though. Kind of like learning Japanese. Learning Japanese is easy, but it's really long. And it's still time-consuming, mind you, but just how it is. So, alright, so we go here, and we just take a rest. Now, there is other cutscenes we can trigger with the characters, but we're not gonna do that yet. So, we gotta go into the woods, back to the woods, and okay, I'm just gonna explain why I'm not triggering those cutscenes yet. Okay, you'll notice how their, you know, Falcia, Panina, and Kunka's heart levels aren't high. Well, here's the way it works. Okay, so up until a certain point in the game, you'll have to, you know, raise so many points, go to a town, trigger a cutscene, and then their heart levels will go up. But what's funny though is if we ignore those, this isn't a glitch. This is just playing it out of order though, because it's all optional. Now, up until one point, you're going to have to marry one of the three characters, and once you get to the second playthrough, you can just go to the optional dungeon, and you can just kill the secret boss there, and it immediately maxes everybody's hearts out, and it carries over to the next generation, where you don't have to do any of that as well. But I'm just going to skip it, and we're going to go right into this. Like, it doesn't really take too long to do it. I think it only takes like maybe like 20 minutes to max it out at most. Maybe a little bit longer than that. But yeah, you can only do it like near the end of the game, though. But and essentially what it does is it gives you like these abilities, but only up until a certain point. And again, this game gets a little confusing. I'm trying to explain what I can in what order, so that way later on this will be easy. It's like reading a book, you know. Instead of reading it out of order and being confused, you're probably better off just playing it in order and understanding it. So I'm just explaining to you what comes first in this game. Okay, so for example, you know, we will raise these heart levels, but at the same time, though, you're better off raising them as high as you can with just counterattacks, and then as soon as, like, because later on, and I would recommend doing this in a speed run too, because if you were to trigger these cutscenes, they would immediately raise their heart levels again, but later on, though, these upgrades get even more ridiculous to get, and when you trigger those cutscenes where it says, like, their heart levels have been risen, because you watch the cutscene, their heart level goes up one level immediately, so you don't have to do all those upgrades and all that. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier, but again, I mean, unless you're playing on your first playthrough, you might want to just trigger the cutscenes to lead the story. I mean, these aren't one-time things. I mean, as long as you can just go to this town, and none of these villages has become like unaccessible later on, like nothing happens to them. So you can definitely do that. So that's how that should work. But I'm just gonna keep going and show you like what happens. But anyways, you'll notice how now we got to go back to over here where the level is, so we can go inside of it. So we can proceed a little bit farther than we did before, and this should make it a little bit easier. Okay, so now we can go a little bit further. And now we found an item, and now we got to leave and go back to the main town. But in the next episode, we'll cover that, because I think I'm going to go start stacking that wood now. I think I'll be making a part 3 very shortly. But in the next episode, once I get out of these woods, we'll hear this theme song again many other times. We're going to be coming here quite a lot. Not to mention, if you're going to raise someone's heart level, I recommend coming back here anyways and doing this on weak enemies, because their stats aren't nearly as high and their agile isn't nearly as high. So like their speed, you always outspeed them, and you'll get more than one attack on them, because like, you know, it's the way the system works. Again, if you played Agarest, I'm sure, well, not the other Agarest games, if you played Mana Kamina, again, going back to Gus games, you know, you'll notice that, you know, that's how it worked in Mana Kamina. If your speed was so high, you could actually get multiple attacks, and there was all even certain combos you could use on certain enemies that would give you like huger advantages. It's essentially like more than one way of playing the game. So, yeah. So I'm going to save the game. I will see you all in the next episode. Again, comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share. If you have any questions, leave them on GameFAQs. I'll answer them. Or you can just send them to me on YouTube. Like I said, everything should be very easy to understand. Again, this game's just in a different language, but that does not mean that you can't already know this.